48 now. I think I might be the oldest apprentice that they've ever had. I felt like the fire service had kind of probably missed me the first time round. I'd have joined this job probably over 20 years ago if I'd have known what it entailed, or if I'd have felt it was a job for me. I didn't see myself reflected in the service whenever I saw firefighters, you know what I mean? Yeah. There wasn't really someone there that made me feel like this job was an option for me. I want to be a beacon towards probably young, black or people of colour children who can see me doing the role and think, yeah, you know what?
I think that's what's important to understand, really. You are a role model.
What was imparted to me as well is that you very much had to recognise the fact that you are black, and that because of that you're going to come across some kind of obstacles in life that are going to be related to your ethnicity.
I was born in '78 and I know sort of not long after that was the Toxteth riots and stuff. Yeah. That generation above me, some of the things that they went through, the difficulties, getting stopped on a daily basis if they went outside a certain postcode.
When I was young, I used to get told by my mum there were certain areas of the city that I couldn't go to, and it was specifically because of racism. Back then, if you went into certain areas of the city, you would be physically chased by, you'd be chased out of the area by people.
What's important to me really is just making sure that, again, everyone in the community gets the same service, despite what sort of cultural heritage you are or race. You're not detrimented because of maybe your postcode.
There's so many people from so many different communities with so much to give that, yeah, this is for you, it is for you. Hi, my name's Austin Cole. I'm an apprentice firefighter in development from City Centre.
John Maddox. I work in headquarters within the protection department and I'm a watch manager. Black History Month is on the horizon and we've decided to come to Shetland Park today and have a quick chat about our careers and our time within the fire service. Hopefully we have an interesting conversation. So Austin, what made you want to be a firefighter?
Well, with me, I'd been plodding around in various different careers throughout my life, and I came to this very late. I mean, I'm 48 now. I think I might be the oldest apprentice that they've ever had. So I felt like the fire service had kind of probably missed me the first time round. I'd have joined this job probably over 20 years ago if I'd have known what it entailed, or if I'd have felt it was a job for me. But I think one of the things is that, and one of the reasons why I'm here is that I didn't really see firefighters that looked like me that made me think it was an avenue that I could pursue. So that was one reason. I had a friend in the service who'd kind of told me about what the job entailed, and as soon as I heard about the details of the job, it was like, this is completely for me. This is exactly what I should be doing. This is probably what I should have been doing all my life, but you know, better late than never, and I'm here now. My
experience is slightly different. I think I worked for Royal Mail previously for about 6 or 7 years, and it was just by chance I seen an advert in the local paper. I think I just got to the point where I wanted to try something different really, and I think my job was becoming mundane, but I didn't see any barriers really to doing any job, if I'm being honest. But I think one of the things that I thought might have been an issue was my eyesight. Yeah. And I think just by chance I seen an advert, and one of the people on the advert was wearing glasses. So I thought maybe there is a possibility of like joining the service, and then I looked into it really.
You'll probably know yourself, John. When you meet other firefighters, we've all got very similar traits. There are very similar traits amongst people who want to be firefighters. You probably run towards the danger if you can help somebody rather than running away. You're probably, you know, one of those people who's a bit more of a team player. Then that'll draw you to the job. If that's what your natural character is like, then it'll tend to draw you to the job.
Obviously, there aren't many better careers, I think, with better job satisfaction, really. I think, as you alluded to earlier, I think it's one of the key things, really, is that coming away from a job knowing that you've helped somebody, you've had an impact on their lives in a positive way, and that's one of the big things about the job that I really enjoyed, really.
But at my age and wanting to join the fire service, I wanted to do a job that every day you could go in and be happy to go to work. Yeah. Who gets that?
Benefits for me is like the diversity within the role, isn't it, really? And you think of all the different skills and the roles that we do on a daily basis, whether that be going to attend incidents or whether do fire safety stuff, prevention work. There's a real massive spectrum of different work that we do, isn't there? And I think that's what brings that interest on a daily basis. Really, every day seems to be different.
I think that most of the people I've met so far, they enjoy, one, the variety, but two, the challenge. When you turn up to an incident, you don't know what the challenge is going to be, and then you have to rise to it, and then you have to be flexible and stuff like that. There tends to be a lot of people in the service who, you know what I mean, thrive in those type of situations. And so, yeah, again, it was personality-wise, I don't think I could be in a better place.
So when did you join? When did you actually complete your training? And can you just talk about some of the challenges you faced during the training and how you found the job since you've been operational and at station?
We're talking about later life and stuff like that. Bearing in mind that I haven't been in an education situation for a long time. When you turn up to the recruit training, maybe it's easy to kind of get the idea that you're just going to be climbing ladders over and nose out, when there's a massive kind of academic part to it that you've really got to rise to the challenge. And having kind of not sat in a classroom for years, that was a big thing. Doing homework again, doing homework at 47 years of age. But again, these are the challenges of the job, and these are things that you've kind of really got to adapt to and rise to that challenge, really. So.
And in terms of like the makeup of your course and your fellow recruits, what was that like? Was there a support network there?
Everyone on the course was great. Everybody got on well. The one thing I'd say, and you know, maybe it was a different experience like that, because we're basically about 20 years apart in terms of our joining our service. The one thing I'd say is that I was the only black recruit on my course, and so that was something that I was aware of. It never felt like an issue, but I was aware that, you know, the way people probably had some of the same life experiences that I've had on the course. And like I say, everyone was great, everyone was fantastic, but it wasn't as diverse in that respect as I thought it may be.
I joined in 2003, and if I think back to it now in hindsight, I was probably lucky, really. I had another couple of male firefighters on my course who were also of black origin, really. And if I'm being honest, speaking to you and learning your experiences, then I understand how lucky it was. Maybe take that pressure off, ask questions, maybe talk to, maybe get their honest opinion on things.
I've been out operationally for about 6-7 months now, and it's like I'm on a station where I work in a system where it's with around about 30-ish people, something like that. There's only one other person of colour on my station, do you know what I mean? So even now, getting out, you're probably not seeing as many diverse faces as you would do in society. But you know, again, maybe that's something that the fire services will address as it goes on, because, you know, to me, it's noticeable.
I found different challenges slightly when I went to station, in terms of, again, there wasn't that diversity on my station. So although I had it on my recruit course, which was beneficial, it was slightly different in terms of when I went to my first station at Low Hill then, which later on closed and moved to Kensington. But I think it's like any organisation or anywhere you join when you're new. You just want to fit in and conform and be sort of a sponge and learn everything, don't you, really? And
that's the stage I'm at now.
Just listen to your more experienced colleagues and get stuck in and do the best job you can. And I think, again, just my personal experiences, really, on the whole, really, I've never had any real issues personally in terms of my colour, or I've never felt it directly. There might be a naivety to what I'm saying, but it's never sort of been apparent to me that there was an issue.
I think that everybody who I've met, certainly throughout the service, and again, it seems to be a trait with a lot of firefighters, is that everybody's so helpful, everybody's so kind of there helping you, that your colour doesn't really seem a factor. The one thing I'd say though is that maybe, and this is just a societal thing, not just a fire service thing, is like when you're in some situations, it's easier when there's somebody who you can relate to, kind of maybe a person of colour, who can empathise with some of the situations that are specific to you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you'll find yourself saying something totally innocently. People won't understand where you're coming from because they haven't had that same lived experience, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Whereas now, I suppose, in my short time here, I've seen people in the higher roles in the service and stuff like that, and that gives me confidence, because I know that there's people higher up the chain who will be able to empathise with situations that maybe some people couldn't understand because they haven't been through them.
Don't get me wrong, I think every organisation has problems.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And Merseyside Fire and Rescue Service is no different. But in terms of trying to be more diverse, really, that's, I don't know whether you know, we've got the Reach network, and that's something like, it's very formative stages, really, but that's one of the reasons I wanted to join, really, was to try and aid that improvement, really, in diversity and making small steps, trying to encourage other people to sort of get involved and make them more aware about different people's cultures, really.
As I say, I feel like this job, it feels like the perfect job for me, but I also feel like it passed me by for so many years. And again, the reason that I feel it passed me by is because I didn't see myself reflected in the service whenever I saw firefighters, you know what I mean? You know, no disrespect to the firefighters there, I'm sure they'd be great and they'd be great at the jobs and stuff like that, but there wasn't really someone there that made me feel like this job was an option for me. So in taking on this job and in taking on this role, I want to be a beacon towards probably young black or people of colour children who can see me doing the role and think, yeah, you know what,
I do, and
maybe
I think
that is for me.
I think that's what's important to understand, really. I think you are a role model.
What was imparted to me as well is that you very much had to recognise the fact that you are black, and that because of that you're going to come across some kind of obstacles in life that are going to be related to your ethnicity.
I was born in '78, and I know sort of not long after that was the Toxteth riots and stuff. That generation above me, some of the things that they went through, the difficulties, getting stopped on a daily basis if they went outside a certain postcode.
When I was young, I used to get told by my mum there were certain areas of the city that I couldn't go to, and it was specifically because of racism. Back then, if you went into certain areas of the city, you would be physically chased you'd be chased out of the area by people.
What's important to me really is just making sure that, again, everyone in the community gets the same service, despite what sort of cultural heritage you are or race. You're not detrimented because of maybe your postcode. So Austin, where are you from, your background, and where was you brought up within the city? Just talk about that for us.
Well, originally I was from city centre, Toxteth. I mean, a lot of people call it town and stuff like that. I used to live just off Princess Avenue as well and stuff like that in my youth. So my stomping ground used to be what's known as like the Toxteth Triangle. Grew up and saw probably more black faces than a lot of people do in Liverpool.
Born and bred in Kensington, really. Brought up there for all of my life, and again, that just shows the difference between me and you, like the sort of the impact we can have on sort of how we were brought up. If I'm being honest, I went to a predominantly white school. I think there was 3 or 4 black people in the whole of my school, so there was no one else black in my school year. It doesn't make you who you are, but it influences your attitudes and your understanding of things and the difficulties that you might have encountered compared to other people.
It's actually ironic that so although I grew up in probably what was one of the more predominantly black areas in Liverpool, I actually went to an almost exclusively white school. There used to be a private school in West, I think it's still there, it's not private no more, St Edward's College in West Derby. So I was selected from my area to be able to go to that school. And that's like the biggest fish out of water experience that you can get, because not only are you probably only one of the only black faces in the school, but all these guys, their dads are running like, you know, pharmaceutical companies and being like that, and it's like, you know, I'm a poor working class kid from a poor background.
In effect, then we've had a similar experience, haven't we? And would you like to share it? Was school a good place? Did you enjoy going to school?
No, when I went to school, I think you kind of felt that difference, and you really did feel like an outsider, do you know what I mean? Not only kind of like in terms of a racial aspect, but an economic aspect. These were like super rich kids who like were living a different lifestyle than you, so it was very hard to kind of identify with the lifestyle that they were going through compared to your own and stuff like that. But there weren't really many people of colour in the higher positions in terms of the school was run by monks. And none of the teachers were black, and so it was like I grew up in school and educated in an exclusively white environment, which was difficult for me.
If you talk about like your cultural background and where do your family originate from?
On my mum's side, her father was of mixed race and they originated from Sierra Leone, and my father is from Nigeria. What about yourself?
Well, my mum's white, born Liverpool city centre, and then my dad is from Nigeria. If I'm being honest, I didn't really have like a great relationship with my father, and I haven't seen him for a number of years, but again, it's just interesting in terms of how that sort of affects you as you go into your life as
well,
a
again, I didn't really have a great relationship with my dad either, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like we became estranged round about my early teen years, but yeah, my mum ended up seeing another guy, a West Indian guy, and he became like a role model in my life, you know what I mean? And taught me, he kind of very much took on that father figure and, you know, taught me basically how to, when you have a role model like that, you know, they teach you how to be a man really, and what's right and what's wrong and all that kind of stuff. So
and share the experiences that he come across himself really. Exactly,
you know what I mean. And again, you just kind of need somebody who can relate to what you're going through because they've been through it.
And I think in terms of my role models, again, my granddad was my role model, white. But in terms of, he still taught me all of the right things about like etiquette and treating people the right way and things like that.
From my perspective as well, maybe because the role models in my life were black in terms of male role models, I think that what was imparted to me as well is that you very much had to recognise the fact that you are black, and that because of that you're going to come across some kind of obstacles in life that are going to be related to your ethnicity. Yeah. I remember some of the kind of racist stuff that I used to experience even as a child from grown men used to be absolutely, you know, ridiculous. Thank goodness, you know, we don't really have to go through that situation anymore, but well, we shouldn't have to anyway, but
and again, I think if I talk about my own experiences, I think the first time that I sort of ever really encountered racism was playing like junior football. I think I played around the Botanic Park area, just outside Liverpool 7, just outside city centre. Played there for 2 or 3 years, and then as you grow older, more into your teenage teams and stuff, and travelling a bit further to play matches in other areas, and that's when I first encountered racism, and I wasn't shocked by it by any means, but it's almost like unbelievable when you see that people have still got these views, and it's just like lazy sort of stereotypical thoughts that is obviously just still getting passed around through generations.
It's the naivety, I don't know about yourself, whether you felt it, but the naivety of a child when someone kind of is either aggressive or negative to you as a form of racism, and that naivety where you're thinking to yourself, why are you being like that? Type thing. It is just so naive, and it's like you don't really even understand the concept, because that first time of experiencing it, it's just like, it feels like, what have I done?
I was born in 78, and I know sort of not long after that was the Toxteth riots and stuff. And I almost feel fortunate really in terms of like that generation above me, some of the things that they went through, the difficulties, getting stopped on a daily basis. If they went outside a certain postcode, they were sort of pulled up by the police and asked, what are you doing, where are you going? Did you see that impact as a young child?
Massively. When I was young, I used to get told by my mum there were certain areas of the city that I couldn't go to, and it was specifically because of racism, because they were predominantly white areas, and so therefore the idea of me going to those areas was dangerous. And you know what, in terms of that, she was probably right, because I have been to like predominantly white areas when I was young, and we literally used to get chased. Do you know what I mean? It sounds so strange now when you think of how society is, but back then, if you went into certain areas of the city, you would be physically chased you'd be chased out of the area by people. Things have changed for the better, 100%.
I really agree with that 100%, and that's a point I've made when I joined the Reach Network, really, was trying to get out of that thinking, that focusing all our efforts on the Toxteth area, which is still beneficial, don't get me wrong, because that's where a large percentage of ethnic minority occupants of the Merseyside area live, but I see it on a daily basis wherever I go with my new job. That diversity is there, and I think sometimes we're missing that opportunity because we just feel like that this is doing work in a particular area like Toxteth is like going to meet all our needs, when there might be a child in the north of the city or somewhere else who we sort of haven't engaged with because we sort of haven't gone that bit further really to try and get them on board. But that's something that really sort of resonates with me, the changing landscape of the ethnicity of our city really.
I think it's important as well to address the black child or person of colour that might be in those places in the north of the city as well, because from my experience of knowing other people of colour who have lived in or been raised in those cities, they might be the only family in that area, do you know what I mean, or one of few families. So it's very important to kind of address their needs rather than them feeling isolated. And
what's important to me really is just making sure that again, everyone in the community gets the same service. So despite what sort of cultural heritage you are or race, I think that's important to me, is that whoever you are, that you get the same service from us really, and that you're not detrimented because of maybe your postcode or as I say, your race and that.
I think one of the key things in being able to understand diverse communities, other communities and stuff like that, is having those communities reflected within the service. I think that's the problem. And it's not that the service isn't necessarily trying to attract those people. It's that maybe sometimes those people in those communities don't feel like, for whatever reason, maybe the same reason when I did when I was young, that the service isn't for them. And so I think that's where the challenge lies, is making people realise this is for you. This is for you. This is you know what I mean? And there's so many people from so many different communities with so much to give that need to realise that, this is for you. It is for you. In wanting to become a firefighter, I took this on specifically because I wanted to see young kids who are either from my area or who look like me or who've gone through it. I wanted them to see me. You can take this on. And also, you know, seeing people like yourself, seeing people like you can rise up the ranks if you really want to. It's all there for you. There is no pathway blocked to you. When you take that uniform off, you can be treated a little bit differently in some people's eyes. And that's a challenge we all face really, in terms of on a daily basis really, that subtlety, whether somebody does appreciate who you are or does feel like you're a valued member of the community. One thing about Liverpool is that we tend to be a pretty tight-knit community, race aside, right? And the one thing that binds us all is our rather unique accent. If you turn up at a job, if you turn up in a community and people hear that you're a Scouser, it breaks down a lot of barriers straight away. So again, if we talk about some of your daily roles and your activity working within the community in terms of that engagement and stuff, how do you find that and stuff? And are communities engaging with yourself? Do you ever see any issues when you knock on a door and think, oh, there might be an issue because of my colour, or do you ever encountered anybody that doesn't want your help or anything like that? The one thing about Liverpool is that we tend to be a pretty tight-knit community, race aside, right? And the one thing that binds us all is our rather unique accent. So if you turn up at a job, if you turn up in a community and people hear that you're a Scouser, it breaks down a lot of barriers straight away. It's a very good icebreaker where, you know, people automatically think, yeah, okay, this is somebody who gets what I get, if you know what I mean. So it's quite... So it's almost something I think unique to us as a city, isn't it? That Liverpool identity, and again, despite how we look visually, I think that sort of accent sort of binds us all together, doesn't it? And we all have similar experiences, really. From my own perspective as well, I think it's the badge that opens a lot of doors, isn't it? As well, obviously, more often than not, people are like really pleased to see the fire service because we're there to come and help them, and they're in sort of dire need potentially. And I think if it's more subtlety around that, I suppose, is like when I finish my job and I take that uniform off, you'd sort of lose that gravitas or that kudos of wearing a badge, and Well,
people don't see you as a firefighter anymore. You're just a black man again, aren't you?
Well, also being a local firefighter and kind of, once they kind of cotton onto the fact that you know their city, from their city and stuff like that, it does help. It does help. There's, you know, I've seen that firsthand. So
I think the badge, it carries a lot of weight, doesn't it? It opens plenty of doors, as we know, really. And I think that's the interesting thing in terms, from a personal perspective, is that, as I say, when you take that uniform off, you can be treated a little bit differently in some people's eyes. And that's a challenge we all face, really, in terms of on a daily basis, really, that subtlety, whether somebody does appreciate who you are or does feel like you're a valued member of the community. But when you wear this badge, I think that sort of gets you into a lot of doors where ordinarily people might not want to engage with you, really.
The one thing I've noticed coming in brand new is that there seem to be a lot of people in higher ranked roles now, in newer people that are of diverse backgrounds, which again I see as a positive, because I feel that people in those roles, especially if you've got kind of like similar life experiences, can empathise with maybe things that I've been through in life, or I might be going through in my career or something like that. But past a certain point, and not the rank structure, most of the people who are in higher positions are exclusively white. That's what I've noticed.
Again, I think that's something the Reach Network has sort of identified, if I'm being honest. And again, the organisation is sort of aware it needs to make improvements in that regard. We've obviously looked at creating a new policy in terms of our engagement, really, and sort of trying to improve the percentage and understanding why it is what it is. If you just highlighted earlier, why are the barriers to people going for promotion for people of colour? Are the things that are stopping them? Is there a lack of support? But these are things that we were sort of being involved in to a certain extent to try and sort of understand why, and whether there's anything we can do to sort of improve that, really.
Well, like I say, it's like I'm brand new, so I'm probably looking at these with fresher eyes than some people. The one thing I have noticed is that there does obviously seem to be a desire to introduce more diversity into those higher roles, because there are people now who are kind of in those roles that, again, a lot of people might see themselves in, if you know what I mean. When we talk about that thing about reflection, being able to see yourself reflected in other roles and stuff. And
again, I think it's about being honest and having some transparency there, really. I think obviously that was identified by the HMI's visit the last time they come, and it said that the service could make improvements in that regard. It was one of the areas that we sort of could improve upon, really. And again, we've had some conversations with senior management, and we've had that support, and he was very supportive in creating a network. But again, that doesn't mean that we still got lots of challenges to sort of try and solve and improve, because things are better than what they were. But again, there's a lot of opportunity for it to get better. Just doing your job on a daily basis and interacting with other agencies and all parts of the community, really, you don't realise, but you're selling the organisation without even knowing it, really. And every time I meet somebody, I'm quite mindful of that. That's their perception of the fire service, really, and that's something that always sticks with me, about sort of treating people right and making sure that we're professional and doing the right job. But in terms of the promotion, you're right. It was just something I wanted to just challenge myself. And again, I don't have any ultimate ambition to get to a certain level. It's just it's quite a holistic approach, really. Just do the next step and just try and learn each day and stuff.
That you know that the next step is open to you.
It is, yeah.
And the only way you can know the next step's open to you is if you see somebody who's like you, who's took the next step. And that's I think that's important for every firefighter in general. But like, you know, people who are from diverse cultures, if they can see themselves in the roles that they'd like to be in, you know what I mean, it's going to make a massive difference.
Again, going back to what you said previously when we were talking, I think you're 100% right. I think especially that sort of senior manager role, and I think seeing somebody in that role, someone similar to yourself, can do a lot. It's sort of without sort of actually saying anything, it can mean a lot. And I think I don't know where personally where I will end up, but I don't see that. I don't see like there's any limits on what I can achieve really, and I think that's a positive, and I think that it is a good thing really. Just knowing that if you work hard enough and you sort of put the effort in, again it's a journey, isn't it? We all make mistakes, and you'll probably learn more from your mistakes and stuff. But yeah, ultimately I do know that there is the possibility if I work hard and sort of do what's expected of me.
That'd be the worst thing. I mean, the way you just said that there is the possibility. The worst thing would be to think that there wasn't a possibility and there was an obstruction in front of you and stuff like that. So it's I agree completely, like, you know what I mean? And
again, that might be a positive thing, because I think there was only a crew manager at that time when I joined. There was nobody else who's in a sort of a management role. So I think that, again, that says a lot about where the organisation was at that time. And if you bring that forward like 20 years, again, nowhere near enough.
But still work to do, definitely.
Yeah, it's a lot better than what it was. And I think if you spoke to other colleagues who've gone for promotion, again, in terms of being honest and transparent, again, there's still some hurdles for people that maybe they thought they were being treated a little bit differently from maybe other colleagues and stuff. But generally speaking, I think there's been a lot of improvement, but a lot of improvement still to be done.
Yeah, definitely. In your role, I mean, because, you know, obviously I look at you now and I'm seeing, like, I'm brand new and I'm seeing like a Black Watch manager, you know what I mean? And you know, hopefully you'll progress in further. Do you see yourself as an inspiration? Because I know in taking on this job, in wanting to become a firefighter, an inspiration to people of colour or, you know, diverse groups, because like I took this on specifically because I wanted to see young kids who are either from my area or who look like me or who've gone through I wanted them to see me and act like some kind of, like, you know, an idea that, do you know what, right? You can be there, you can get here, you can take this on. And also, you know, seeing people like yourself, seeing people like you can rise up the ranks if you really want to. It's all there for you. There is no pathway blocked to you. Do you see yourself in that respect?
Yeah, I think I never set out with the reason of going for a promotion to sort of be a role model or being an influence on people within the community, really. If I'm being really honest, I think it was just a personal decision for my own career, really, and my own family. So
I suppose the opposite is that it was in my mind. I did want to inspire. I did want those kids who were in that area to see me on the trucks. I want them to see me out in the community. I want them to see me doing good, and I want them to kind of look at that and think, yeah, you know what I mean, maybe that is for them. I mean, we know ourselves like that. In terms of being a firefighter, it's probably something that's in you and you want to do yourself like that. But I'd just love to be the person that kind of, if a kid came up to me in 20 years' time and said, do you know what, I saw you as a firefighter and it made me think, yeah, I do that, that'd kind of make me feel great, to be honest.